I've been very lucky in my life that I have not been touched by suicide in the way that I've lost somebody close until I guess it was 10 days ago. It's my friend Jon MacKay, and oh fuck, this is gonna be a hard one. But I wanna do him right, and I wanna do everybody who's affected by this right. And but well, I met Johnny. I called him Johnny. It was me, and I think he had an ex that used to call him Johnny one time, and I was able to get away with that too. We were not ensconced in that way, but at one time, real good buddies, and I still consider him a good friend. And I know he's out there somewhere, so I hope he feels the same. And so I met Johnny on Agricola Street in a very hot summer of 2007. I hadn't been sleeping very well, but he was a big part of new friends that I'd made in '07. Around '04, everybody had moved away. In '05, I went really into myself, inward, very too inward, but got into art, some stuff like that. First as a fan, and then later as a comic, and so on. Uh, but then um, John, along with Al, was one of my three new friends of '07, and when I met him, I was probably like manic and sleep deprived and stuff, but I was talking to him about overcoming my own depression, about how I'd been suicidal for years, the main big stretch being 97 to '05, age 13, 14 till about 22. So I changed my life around, went inward, got into arts, and I could tell that he was like he was inspired by it. He was like good man, and I took a liking to him and was an instant friend, and really enjoyed our time together. And I loved what he was doing with that whale. Fuck, nobody else was doing that. You get artists, and people are nerdy in ways and whatever, and cosplay or whatever. But that's a dime a dozen. There's tons of people doing that. Who in the hell else was going around in a portable sleeper trailer that he designed and built himself, called the Whale? He was living in it, and he would often stay in people's backyards for exchange of using their amenities. He would do small jobs to fix up the house, and I thought it even got a little bit of press on it. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And in the time, that hot summer of '07, this was towards the end of the Bush administration, things were getting quite lively, and it had a very apocalyptic feel to it. So it felt that the whale might need to be a big thing for people, like society might collapse. And here we are 15 years later in the same kind of predicament. And like, can you imagine with the housing crisis if there were prototypes of whales to live around where people didn't have uh, landlords to worry about? These were very much one person dwellings, barely big enough for one, but he made it work. And I wish to Christ that he would have stuck with it. I don't know that it would be sustainable to do for 15 years. And it may have started a bit before I met him. So I came into meeting in '07, so he may have been at it since like '06 or '05 or something like that. But um, then I think the worst thing that happened to him was inheriting from a family friend a property in Pictou. Great to be close to home and the family and stuff like that. But I think it was too much of an opportunity to cocoon, and he never really, I don't think, was able to pull out of that. And like, I can under in a lot of ways, it's better than being homeless. On like, if we didn't have the whale and he was just kind of bumming around and stuff, and maybe that could have been a different demise. And I think it was nice that he had that. Um, I never I never did make it down there. I had developed my neurogenic bladder about a year and a half before meeting him, and Didn't really think the travel was well, it's not easy, and it probably wasn't a good idea. But often he would come in and see me in Halifax, even when he did permanently settle in Pictou again. Not super often, but through the years, and I've been racking my brains trying to think about when the last time was that I'd communicated with him. Uh, it would have been in the 20 teens sometime. He helped me move here with Jesse at the time in August of '08, like 14 years ago, almost to the day. It would have been August 1st, and very instrumental in that, repainting the. I had my walls all lively colors, thanks to Wayne Pelrine back in '04 upstairs, but was forced to downsize. The government didn't want me in a one bedroom, so I had to come down here, and Johnny helped paint, and him and Jesse were really instrumental in helping me move, and it was really through him. Uh, and I just, I'm not angry with him. Uh, I don't blame anybody for committing suicide because if you're in that much pain, then obviously that is what needs, well, I shouldn't say what needs to happen, but if that eases it, and you can't see no way out, and you're just tortured and miserable. But holy fuck, I wish I could have had a chance to talk to him first. And again, it ultimately has to come up to the individual themselves, but I wish there's something that I could have done, and I know there are a lot of struggling people around there, and I can't be there for, you know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry that I might run across, but I could have been there for Johnny. He was my friend, he really was my friend, and I loved hanging together with him. He had gotten off Facebook some time ago, but I went to see our history, and the last message I would have sent to him on Facebook was May 3rd, 2013 would have been his 34th birthday, I believe. And I was looking back at our correspondence, and a lot of them I was saying, "Hey, Johnny Blades." What the hell was I saying, Johnny Blades? Like he wasn't like a superhero or nothing. Then I remembered um, we had we had done hot knives. I would always need help with. I couldn't manage this. It's too dangerous for me. I could have lost a finger or more other things with my bad dexterity. But and anybody who's around me knows I have those big 4-liter jugs of water all the time. Doing hot knives, I found it so hard on my throat um, that it was just miserable. The high was tremendous, of course, with the ash and stuff like that. But um, he figured out, well, what if you were to cut off the top of your water jug and do the knives through that and funnel the smoke up through the bottom, and then you can suck it back through the drink hole, right? And it's like it really did cut down on the smoke and the harshness. So that's what Johnny Blades were, and fuck, I love doing them with him. I wish that we could have had more time together. I remember the couple of the last times I tried to connect with him. I was at a party at Maggie Rar's, and this cat working for the CBC was really off on drugs and just being belligerent and obnoxious. But he was cool. I called him on his shit, and he apologized to me, give me a hug, and Grace Faye was there with me, and she was helping me calm me down and relax me and stuff because I was just like so stressed out by this hoople head. And I remembered meeting Grace very briefly through Johnny many years ago, and I said, "Geez, Grace, you know, I bet he'd love to hear from you." And I called. I don't remember the number now, but I did remember it at that time, and I'm pretty sure that was like the end of 2019. I feel like this party at Maggie's was like around Christmas time 2019. It was definitely before COVID, but not much before. And there was no answer, but we did try. We did try to get a hold of him. I think the number may have been disconnected or whatever. I knew he was typically a night owl, so I wasn't too worried about bugging him. Um, He was, I think, in general, maybe not the last years, because maybe where he'd gone inward so much and been isolated, but he was generally more open to people than me, uh, and he had a group of like childhood friends that he would still kind of hang around with. This was, oh 07, oh 08, oh 09, before he went back to Pictou, and so I was able to meet some of them and enjoy their company and stuff like that. And it kind of almost went reversals as I started making more friends because a lot of my schoolhood friends and stuff like that, I'm not really in contact with. There's like one, and even then, not that much. Uh, it's so hard, because even though I hadn't seen him for a lot of years, I figured I'd still see him again. He was great at. I was I had very um, extreme reactions to people who were bullies, or I had an ex that had a very bad abuser, and I was like, Johnny, man, I gotta get this motherfucker. Like he's such a menace, and he's a menace to other women. Somebody's got to get him. Well, Josh, you get him in the moment, if it came down to that, but not, for this plan and stuff that would just take you down a negative path. And he was right. He had, a greater capacity, I think, to forgive than I did. And it taught me about that. I think that he was a truly unique individual, and that's why him and I connected so well. We were both um, extremely different from any kind of norm, and I often think like counterculture gets kind of the wrong impression. People, oh, you're countercultural, you're so unique, right? Well, yeah, but if there's like 50 other people that are exactly like you and hold your beliefs and stuff, you're not that unique, Like, you got a group of 50 people doing zines and stuff. That's like, it might not be the mainstream, but it's a whole subculture, right? You didn't have anybody going around living in a whale, you know? Um, and I think that he was really bummed that like the whale didn't become like a multi-million dollar enterprise. They couldn't be prototyped in, these apocalyptic times that, you know, that couldn't just be a thing, right? And I remember telling him, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but that was the impression I got. And I remember telling him, like, Johnny, like, that's not, it's not a failure of your plan or your execution of what you did, but it's a failure of expectation. To expect to be, and then again, right? Like I still hope to make, $1 million on the film I made, or my other creative enterprise. I hope to be a millionaire too, or well, have enough to live comfortably anyway. But I think the difference was that I was able to persevere. I think he just kind of quit. Now, I don't blame him. Like I quit early in life. I quit before I started getting into arts, like the 20 to 22 range, and I just kind of going to the bar every day, not do anything with myself. The self-loathing was so extreme, and the shame of like, oh man, I'm such a loser. I don't know, but I feel he felt that way, and it's such a goddamn shame because he was so talented. And this is again another one of those reasons why, as as humans and as artists in particular, unique individuals, not necessarily artist makes you unique or whatever, but there needs to be a guaranteed basic income so that really odd cats can do what they're supposed to do and not have to worry. Because if you, and even myself, like, yeah, I've had some accolades and a few grants and stuff like that, but they've all been pretty small scale. I've never made 20 grand in a year, my adult life, and certainly not in my kid life either, because I wasn't working then, you know. Um, I think sometimes without the success, you become a parody of yourself, right? Because it feels kind of like a joke, like, or like, is he the only one that doesn't realize he's not any good or something like that? And obviously, there's more to it than that, and it is about the journey and not necessarily the end result. But if you don't get that end result, right, it's really hard to keep going. And I just think of so many funny memories. Like he chid me probably for not wearing a shirt. I don't think in general not wearing a shirt, but one thing he always insisted you'd have shirts at the table. And I'm not at the table, Johnny. I'm at the computer, and I'm not eating. I did that right before I shot the camera, so nobody's seeing my boobies while eating, Johnny. Um, just I wish we could have more times, man. And I still have fantasies, both me and him, like being successful and chucking on like top hats and a monocle and spend a night going around town in a limo, drinking out of fancy champagne glasses or something. I remember one time when he was down the waterfront with the whale. This would have been '07, '08, in the nicer weather, and some father was there with his young son or something like that, and he told the son like it's a shame that the world's not a little bit different because here's good people like this, meaning John and his whale, like trying to do something different, and basically having to panhandle for it. And I can't remember if this was just something I wanted because it'd be so wild if we actually did, if we did park under the wave, like the whale under the wave down the waterfront. Um, and, you know, as far as the suicide goes, again, another reason why I can't judge is because I've been on the ledge so much myself. Most persistently between 97 and '05. But even from '05, even till my most recent troubles being the end of 2020, um, I would always dip back onto that ledge. And just, I don't know if I can take it, being single all those years and just feeling unloved in and I'm not unloved, period. I am very loved in some really special ways, but feeling unloved romantically and consistently, and the rejection and the manipulate. Well, there's a lot of rejection, not so bad about that, but the few times of the manipulation and the mind games and stuff really, really damaging, and just not knowing if I could take it. And November, December 2020, I was done. I was declaring like euthanasia, and then I realized it'd be too much red tape, and most people were very, very supportive. I wasn't in touch with John at this time, but a couple of people were like super judgy and like, oh, you need mental health services and blah blah blah, and like they won't give you euthanasia, blah blah blah. Like, and it's like you're not helpful. Um, and and to me, euthanasia was like kind of being safe because okay, if I like do this process, I can always change my mind, right? So that was my way of saying I had enough, but there's going to be a chance to turn back. Johnny, there ain't a chance to turn back. But you know, I think that he lost this battle, like life as Jon MacKay. Um, and I don't mean lost. Like I think he had a great many successes in his life. He was a great artist and loved and loved others and was loved himself. And um, you know, he he did that well, and he was in a band in high school that was quite successful around the Pictou area. It was either Maggot Face or Maggot Head. Maggot something to do with maggots anyway. Something punk probably, right? And you know, and I read something with the communication being severed, but he talked fondly about his family and told me stories of Sandy running the inn and later on doing some stuff on there's a couple programs on the cable access, the Picto version of Channel 10. So I think he was inspired by his dad to try things and try to be a success like that, you know. So so I think that, if there were some real difficult times in the past years, that shouldn't undo or take away from the good times that there were in years previous to that. Johnny was a dreamer, right? And that's a hard position to occupy. I'm a dreamer too, right? We live in ideals. Like, I know sometimes you talk about a relationship or something. Like, it's not that good, but like, or it's not quite what I need. But geez, like maybe this is as good as it gets in the human world, right? But he couldn't quite reconcile himself, I don't think, to compromise on anything, right? And it's a shame on the one hand, but it's also beautiful on the other hand, because that's what made him who he was, uncompromising. And I'd be remiss to leave out that this is before I knew him, but when those swarmies were going around, I don't know exactly when this took place. I'm assuming sometime between '03 and '05. He got attacked in one of them swarmings and suffered massive head trauma, a lot of injuries to his head. And so I think that could have played a big factor in him, not being able to stick to his goals and stuff like that. I remember he kind of said one time that he was going to uh, maybe one day like take some time off and just get a job. But like for me, like for Johnny, like a regular job like that just would have been death, right? Like death of the spirit at least. And I don't think he could have sustained that for more than a couple of weeks or something, right? And that's not to say that he didn't do carpentry jobs here and there. We'd often talk about the like those just miserable jobs that almost nobody wants to do, but you have to sometimes. And he'd say the Zeller's job, right? So, and again, that's not a knock on anybody working at Zeller's. It has to work at Zeller's. We have to do what we have to do, but just the situation that forces people to have to do that was just so miserable and so much against the potential of what we could be as human beings if we were unlocked to our fullest potentials. And he was smart as a motherfucker too. Like he said, and I know he was telling the truth too about this because I could just see it, just how he was. He realized going to grade primary, he started grade primary, right? He said, "Oh man, this is just going to be going to school. This is just going to be uh, you know, like a jail." And it just, the weight of the world crushed down on how bad school was. I bought into school myself till I started having problems in grade 9 and then never did again. And then on the other hand, right, you had this guy who, oh man, the system is miserable and all this, but he had loads of friends, growing up that young. And I told him one time myself, I said, Johnny, I think I'm giving up on society. I said, but I'm not giving up on people. And he thought that was the right way to look at it too. And so even though he hated school and all that, uh, another time he he like this was probably grade 2, grade 3. This is just stories he told me, right? Somebody told him they had a time machine, and he believed them. And Johnny wasn't no idiot, not even just a little kid, but I think he believed that this other cat had a time machine because he wanted to believe in the possibility of time travel because that would just be so amazing, right? Imagine if you could go travel in time and not have to go to school, right? Wouldn't that be better? Of course it would. Of course it would, right? So I never done anything like this, never experienced it. Um, if you're suffering real bad, like try to reach out to somebody if you have somebody close. Like I can't I can't be there for everybody. I don't have that capacity. Um, but I can be there for my close friends, and I could have been there for Johnny if there's anything I could have done just to change his mind and just to get him reinterested in something, Uh, even if it wasn't a whale, something good. And he believed so that first time I met him, I expressed the troubles in comedy. This is, back in '07. He said, well, because his dad run me in there, Dana Alexander had traveled through. He had a friendship with her, and she's a wonderful touring comic. I think originally from Toronto. I don't know where she's based out of now. I'm going to guess probably still Toronto. I don't know about that though. But anyway, so Dana, he took me up to her hotel room. She was co-headlining the weekend with a guy from Vancouver. I can't remember. He's a skinny, handsome fella anyway. But him and Dana was co-headliners. Now, I believe Mark Little was emceeing, and Ian Black was, I think, middling. And I tried to get a guest spot. Management wouldn't let me have one at the time. But I, uh, I think I talked to Ian and Mark and the other guy and Dana we'd spent time with. So we were over there all afternoon, hot box in their hotel room, me and Johnny and Dana, and it's high with my mind and everything, right? But I was so motivated to do it. I fought to get a guest spot, and I did really good. This is 15 years ago now, and I was motivated even that night. Mark Little called me a miracle worker of comedy because I could turn it around, man, and I had a great night. And I was just blitzed and loving it and like trying to do good, and show what I was capable of, and Johnny facilitated that for me, right? Because I wasn't as easy with people, certainly not then, and maybe still not now. So he helped me, and he was one of the only guys I knew poorer than me, being like a welfare cat, right? But he didn't even have no welfare, so he was just, so and he would feel guilty about it sometimes, he called himself the penniless wonder and that a few times like that, right? But he never hit me up for money or nothing. But like, if I had, and I don't mess with weed no more, but if I did then, right? If I had some of that, he was welcome to whatever I was having to have together, and get a pizza slice. Sure, Johnny, I'll get you a slice. You know what I mean? And then, but he was happy to help me out when he could. He like I said, he helped me move that time, and all that extra painting and stuff. And then I had a fundraiser for Wayne the year before he died, so through the end of 11. I hadn't seen Johnny in a while, and there was Johnny and Charlie's Wayne's fundraiser, the end of it, and me, and he had money so he's so happy to be able to. He bought me a bunch of drinks down the bar, and got me some Tonys later on, and we just chilled afterwards, talking at my place all night, right? 'Cause that's how we did, and such a good night for me. And Wayne would live for another year, and I was happy that you know the little bit of the fact of me doing a comedy show at that point, um, and all the connects that he had, like the Charlie's was swamped. You couldn't really even hear nothing, but it didn't matter. It was just under the auspices of doing a comedy show for Wayne, right? And I think I made Wayne about $900, So that made me feel cool to be able to do that. And there I had Johnny with me, to spend the evening. It's such a surprise to see him. And yeah, and I know people said uh they were surprised. I ain't surprised at all. I'm surprised in one sense that because um he was always cautious, like when he got that truck driving, I was back drinking, have a couple drinks. Oh no, I gotta drive, right? So he was cautious in that sense, and I could have seen him being cautious in the sense of like he I'm sure he probably measured out like how much pain it would cause his family and friends to kill himself, but I'm sure that he was in so much pain that he just needed an alleviation of that. And I really hope that, all the angels is helping him. And I kind of get the sense spiritually that maybe he might want to be left alone for a while. I saw it was part of his wishes to not have no funeral, and so I hope this isn't bothering him. But I'm just trying to process this, and for everybody who loves him, and for the suicide tip, like, you know, try not to judge people about it, because I've been so, and I like to think I'm over it now because my life's taken a dramatic good turn in these last 14, 15 months. But I can't never say, 100% for sure. I believe deeply I committed suicide in my last life, and so there's all my soul is always going to have a large pull to that, and I think, um, but wish there's something I wish I could still be hanging with him, like I wish Sam could have met Johnny, and and I remember one time some years ago, I told him my feelings, as my friend. I said, Johnny, I love you, man, like as my friend, right? He said, Josh, I love you, right? So that's how I want to remember him, and remember him for being true original. Uh, know that to be that um, means to have big joys, but also big suffering. And I hope he's getting all the help that he can need in the spiritual world. I remember, we talked about a lot of things in reincarnation, and he talked about um, like what an amazing thing it'd be to go down in a big battle. I kind of almost feel like he was a reincarnated uh, soldier, who in a past go had died on the battlefield for Scottish independence. It's just something about him, that was like that. But fuck, Johnny, I miss you. I'm gonna miss you for a long time, man. But I hope we cross paths again, and I hope you know that you touched a lot of people, man. And we love you, Johnny. And you'll always have a place in my heart, brother. Hope we meet again someday. I'm gonna write a poem about him real soon. Here's to Jonathan Porter MacKay.